Cool. I've also performed. I have performed on the West End. I've performed in the same theatre as Phantom of the Opera. Oh. Well, kind of. I play the Phantom's Mask. Because I like being on Ramin Kalaloo's face. That's a very niche musical theatre joke. I also think I said his name wrong. But we'll see. Mary, I'll bring you on with something better. What is green and invisible? This cabbage. Anyway, we do have one more act in this kind of section. She's very funny. Like I said, I saw her at a show and she came straight up to me and she was like, Gareth, I think you're so funny, book me. And do you know what? I did. She is very funny. International performer. Hold on. Max, stand up.
Aww.
Yeah, literally, would have been the same. International performer. You guys have been absolutely excellent so far. Please whoop, holler and cheer for the hilarious Mary Ryan!
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Gareth. Oh, it's lovely to be here. I was on Duolingo, but I deleted it because of the AI thing. But I was learning Swedish because I used to go to Norway. Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to me either. But my weirdest sentence, because everyone has one, don't they? Anyone who's done Duolingo, we all have that weirdest sentence. My weirdest sentence was, why is there a Norwegian architect in my bed? Which is what my wife wanted to know too. So anyway, it might surprise you to know that when I was 24, I got married to a man. Because I know what you're thinking, you know, Mary, we assumed you're a lesbian. And you'd be right, absolutely. But what you have to understand is that I grew up in Norfolk in the 1980s. And they hadn't invented lesbians back then. So how was I supposed to know? So there I was in my mid-20s, married to this bloke, and as you can probably imagine, I started to discover some deep personal truths about myself. And one of the ones that I wanted to share with you is that until this point in my life, I had not realised that there is a difference between a geek and a nerd. Did you know this? Did you know this? Okay, we're going to do a quick straw poll here, okay? So, if, like my younger self, you thought that geek and nerd was just the same kind of loser, I want you to shout out, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
Okay, that's confident. And if, like my ex-husband, you were confident that you knew that a geek and a nerd are two entirely different things, I want you to shout out, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you very much, Max. Thank you so much. You didn't do the hand signal there. You know, you lose points for that.
He's got scoliosis, he can't.
In his hand? I'm sure Gareth, that's not how that works. For those of you who shouted out, may the force be with you, very confidently, I want you to understand there is no judgment here, okay? This is, as ever, a safe space and everybody's welcome. But looking around, I reckon that most of you weren't bullied that much at school, were you? Not really. Not by comparison with Max. You know? Let me explain the difference between a geek and a nerd, okay? So a geek is a generalist, okay? They're interested in all kinds of shit. You know, they know a little bit about almost everything, which makes them quite useful people to know. They're brilliant on a quiz team. They read all kinds of stuff. So they're going to read, you know, science fiction and fantasy fiction and historical fiction maybe some horror if they're into that kind of thing. Basically anything that, you know, that they enjoy, they'll give it a go. They have no judgment of those things. If it's fun, they'll do it. I reckon a good proportion of them probably know how to crochet. And at least 12%, and I think it's rising, are also learning how to make kombucha. And you might think, mightn't you, that would put them on the kind of upper tier of the geek-nerd hierarchy. But you would be wrong. Because the nerd sees these socially successful little butterflies and sees nothing but weakness. Oh, you see, these geeks, they don't have that sticking power to become a true specialist, and they certainly don't have the nerve to cope with the tension that is Tuesday lunchtime chess club. Oh no. The nerd, unlike his geeky counterpart, probably only reads science fiction and is going to complain bitterly, if you give them the chance, that every single bookshop insists on blending science fiction and fantasy into one damn section. They are two different genres, you know that, don't you? Well, I'm an out and proud geek, and I was married to a man who was apparently far, far too cool to enjoy, geeky shit like Dungeons and Dragons or Game of Thrones or things like that. And so I closeted my happy, shiny, geeky self, and I adopted the apparently superior and allegedly far cooler nerd approach to life, which boils down to this. If it's popular, it's trash. Only consume things that demonstrate to the rest of the universe just how much smarter you are than them. God, it's miserable. So I had to escape, and I escaped by the only obvious route to me, and I came out as gay. But I wasn't brave enough to do it all at once, and I did that classic thing. I tried really, really hard to be bisexual, really hard, and because I'm a geek, I took it very seriously. So I went to see, and this is absolutely, completely true. I know you think we make this stuff up, but this is totally true. I went to see a bisexual friend who I considered to be successful. He's called Heath, he's dead now, sadly, bless him, for some advice. Because I thought, Heath would give me good advice. And he did, I was right, he gave me brilliant advice. But he finished by saying one thing that I just couldn't get past. He said, Mary, at the end of the day, sex is just sex. But God, I love cock. And that, folks, is when I knew. Categorically. And when I went home to tell my not quite yet ex-husband the truth, he looked at me in typical know-it-all nerdy style and went, yeah, I always thought you were probably a lesbian. I'm sorry, I have so many questions. Why did you marry me? Why did you even go out with me? For fuck's sake, why didn't you tell me? We could have saved so much time. But when I came out, I'm proud to say that, although I very clearly lost a husband when I came out, and that was intentional, I didn't lose a single family member or friend, which was amazing, and I know, that's not a universal truth for everybody. The general reaction was, yeah, we're not that surprised, you always were kind of one of the lads. And I can see what they mean. I've always had a tendency to wear suits and brogues and the occasional tie. So much so that I'm pretty certain my mum thought I might be trans, which for 1980s Norfolk is quite impressive. And she was, bless her, completely cool with that. Completely cool. I'm not. I don't see any situation where I personally would want to swap nice, soft, warm, jiggly breasts for it's got veins. No. But one of the lads, I've always really struggled with kind of identity, and I'm very impressed by people who have a really clear sense of who they are. Like my wife, who is sitting in the third row. She knew at the age of 4 that she liked women better than men. And it happened when she was watching Calamity Jane with her family. To this day, she has not yet forgiven Clam for ditching Katie, the best friend, and marrying, in Catherine's words, some sweaty, hairy cowboy. And she's never looked back. For me, I don't know, I find identity a really tricksy thing to pin down. I've never been entirely comfortable claiming that kind of classic butch lesbian label, because, don't get me wrong, I love a power tool, okay? I have 4 different Sanders, and I actually don't know how many carabiners I've got. They're all hanging up on, there's a lot. But I also really, really love dressing up, and I love glitter. And so I have come to the conclusion that somewhere in the multiverse, in some alternate timeline, I was born as a boy. And I grew up to be a fabulous drag queen. Thank you so much for having me. That's me done. I shall hand you over.